Hello, everybody. This is Gary Gomes. I was hoping to use my new camera today, but I still need to work out some bugs in terms of working it out. So I was hoping to give you like a little um, preview, but we're back to the conventional mode, and hope you don't mind that. I have finally got it working, which is a big accomplishment for me. And so enough about the technical side of things. Let's get on to what you're really here for, and that's for me to talk about Vedic astrology and how it affects you and your life. I've changed the orientation of my screen a little bit so it's a little bit clearer. You can see there's still a lot of sunlight, but it looks like the fidelity is a lot better. And you can see that I actually do read, or at least I have a lot of books in the background. So I do read those books. And let me just turn the closed captioning on, and we'll be on our way. So my name is Gary Gomes. I've been a Vedic astrologer for 30 years. You can read my biographical information in a variety of settings. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I've been on YouTube for at least, geez, not doing shows like this for about 15 years, I want to say, maybe longer, but not. This is the first regular show I've been on for about the past 4 years, and I'm currently acting as a contributor to. I want to put a plug in for Saptarishi Astrology. I'm currently editing for them, and I'm also contributing. And the magazine is a wonderful magazine. It's been out of print, I would say, for about 7 to 10 years. You can find back copies online. There are a lot of wonderful articles on Vedic astrology, so you can catch up on that. I will start taping my own instructional videos pretty soon as a prelude to opening my school. And you can contact me for lessons, individual lessons, or readings by contacting 508 525 0001 or by emailing me at at Gary Gomes, GARY GOMES, at gmail.com. So I hope that's clear enough. I'll put the contact details in. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you for watching the show. If you like what I'm doing, we're up to 500 subscribers, which may not sound like a big deal, but it's been it means a lot to me that you bother to subscribe and tune in. And that's impressive for a channel that really doesn't have a large media base, spread really by word of mouth. I haven't done a lot of promotion of the channel outside of these videos, and outside of New Bedford Cable TV, who's graciously agreed to air these shows every week. I'm going to put the starry background on in a second, but I just did want to at least, and maybe I'll leave it off this week because at least you'll see some of my various quirks um, um, and backgrounds over here. So we'll get away from the cosmic theme for a while and show that I am a real human being working in the real world. And that I actually did get these glasses from reading, not because somebody poked me in the eye, which was also true. So let's get on to the chart. Enough about me, but like I said, check out Saptarishi Astrology. It's really interesting. I think you'll find it useful. And you can access it just by typing in the words SAPTARISHI, astrology. And I think Sunil John's been a great asset to the astrological community for many, many years now. and he's decided to restart it. So my hats off to Sunil and Vinayak for taking this up again. Also, if anybody's interested in contributing to Salvadorishi, if anybody's interested in taking lessons with me, if anybody's interested in a reading with me, please contact me at 508-525-0001 or call, or you can also call me at that number, or you can also just email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. The other thing is, I would like you to subscribe. Now we're 500. We need to get to 1,000 to make it a really effective YouTube video. And also share it with your friends. Share it with people who you think might be interested. Excuse me. And hopefully, we're going to get a higher quality presentation. I have a green screen now. I have a variety of things that you don't need to know all the technical details about, but they're pretty simple video enhancement techniques, and they're not expensive. So it's just a way to make the show more entertaining for you. Okay. So it's, so sitting watching at a talking head for a while can get a little bit boring. I know. All right, so I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to get out of this for a second. And we're going to pull up the chart because astrology is really, so we've had a lot of violence over the past week, huh? Jeez, it's currently January 29th. Both violence in terms of exposure, and I just want to pull up a chart. Give me a second. Now a chart. And this is a much bigger chart than I normally use. I add some options. Sure. Just, just 1 second. I should have done this before. Sorry, folks. No, I'm not putting in, I normally don't put in Pluto. But I've become interested in Pluto. All right, so this is going to be a very big chart. Once you see it, sorry for taking so much of your time doing this. And we're going to share the screen. All right, so this is, I'm going to stop the screen and share it again, because I know the Zoom tends to be a little temperamental at times. Like, my camera, which seems to be working now, wasn't working before. It's a much better picture, believe me. You'll see a big difference. But I need to get it to talk to Zoom, so that's the thing. So enough of that. So I'm talking to you right now, and again, I'm going to stop the share and reshare it. It's because I don't trust Zoom all that much. Although I do love the fact that I can share these videos with you on Zoom. Zoom tends to be temperamental in terms of. So we have. So this is one of the first times I'm going to be talking to you about Mandi and Gulika. And Mandi and Gulika are like Saturn's uh, little children. You know, basically, there's a story about about Saturn. It was uh, there was an entity called Ravana who tried to so without getting into too many details. Um, there was Mandi and Gulika are considered to be Saturn's feet. So essentially, there was um, uh, for simplification, there was a bad guy in the Vedas called Ravana, very powerful being, and he tried to have a son who would be essentially the he would be a he would have he would have all the planets um, in really um, exceptionally good placements, and Saturn essentially foiled his plan by reversing himself in the chart. And when that did, Mandi and Gulika came out uh, as as the position he was in. So Saturn ended up not producing this supercharged chart that would be um, um, very powerful. One second, folks. Right. So one of the reasons I'm showing you this chart right now is because of so we've had a lot of violence over the past few days. We've had, especially in the United States, we've had violent videos. We had a lot of storms in California, like really intense storms in California. A lot of murders over the past couple of weeks. A lot of a lot of mass murders over the past couple of weeks. We've had obviously we had the broadcast of the horrific beating of the of that individual in Memphis, Tennessee, and also the attack on Paul Pelosi air. So if we look over here, so this is one thing you can sort of like look at. So let's say this is the United States chart. The United States chart has a Sagittarius rising sign over here. So Mercury's like right in the first house in the United States chart right now. So some people don't like this chart, but I happen to like it, so I'm going to use it. And the sun's in the second house, so there's a lot of focus on government and a lot of focus on changing government because of Pluto, but I could also come up with other reasons for that. But let's just say that um, Saturn moving to the second house also tends to give some criticism of government, some speech about government, some lack of trust in government. And Jupiter in the third house, Jupiter in the fourth house gives an interest in justice overall. It gives an interest in what I would call true justice, because it's no longer aspected by Saturn. It's not a vengeful kind of a combination. It's the Saturn aspecting Jupiter is just revenge for revenge's sake. Okay, and I'll say that deliberately. I'll say a lot of the stuff we've seen over the past year and a half has not been a real interest in justice. It's been a real interest in essentially shutting down debate. This has actually changed over the past month or so, and I think you're going to see more change in this direction over the next 3 weeks. And ooh, sorry, folks. And the camera seems to have a life of its own. And but one of the other things that comes out is we have this Mars in the 6th house, and we have Rahu and Moon in the 5th house. So the Moon, and when the Moon gets terrified of Rahu, I mean, it really does. You know, in Vedic astrology, Rahu is responsible for eclipses of the Moon. Now, we don't have a real eclipse occurring right now, but effectually, the Moon was passing over Rahu. So this gives a lot of anxiety. This gives a lot of fear about the future. And that's what we've been hearing over the past week or so. That's what we've been hearing about. A lot of panic, let's say. So, and that's been especially true in politics. We've had a lot of people saying that this represents the real, politicians are like, I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. Politicians sell through hyperbole. It's not like they want to, it's just that they have to. So a politician will usually make a relatively harmless, or I would say inconsequential issue into the end of the world. So the committee assignment story came up as a really big issue for the United States. Politics in other countries are starting to flare up. So Peru is having some problems, definitely. They're in the news a lot. Some other governments are having a lot of problems. Everybody's treating everything like it's a crisis mode, and I think that's something that bothers me a little bit, because when you start to have people panicking, they don't think clearly. They don't think, okay, well, this is just this is an event, and that doesn't mean that what we're seeing right now isn't important, but is it as important? Is it as end of the world as a lot of people would have you believe? No, it's panic. So we're seeing fear, panic, anxiety, and that's that Rahu conjunction right now. And that's been coming since. So the Moon passed over Venus and Saturn first, and it passed over Jupiter. That's the interest in justice. And now, over the past 3 days, it's been in Aries. So we're looking at the government saying you should do something quickly, or governments are in danger, or governments are panicking, or governments are catastrophic, and people won't survive the next year and a half. Okay, so it's just so just over the next couple of days, just take a deep breath, calm yourself down, and especially later today and tomorrow, use the energy of the Moon-Mars conjunction to energize yourself, to get things done, to do things, and don't get too nervous. I mean, if you want to start an exercise program, this is an ideal time to do it. If you want to start a project, this past few days have been really optimal times to do it. The 26th in particular was great, but still the 29th through roughly through February 2nd are good. Also, I think I'm underplaying the comet, which I've spoken about a lot in the previous few reviews. This does give unexpected shifts and changes in governments. So we'll probably see some shifts and changes in governments in Scorpionic and Sagittarian countries, and maybe even in Gemini countries, because these tend to be the signs that are most heavily involved with the comet's transit, where the comet's appearing. But basically, and also all the way over into Capricorn. So I think one of the things I would look for over the next week or so is a lot of people panicking. I'm hoping that there won't be violence tonight, but I'm kind of guessing there will be. The other thing I'd like to point out to you is we have this Gulika Mandi combination in the 7th house and the 8th house. So Gulika and Mandi are malefic influences in a chart. They're places where, so let's say a chart shows good results in a sign. If Gulika and Mandi are in that sign, they'll tend to energize that sign a little bit too much. They'll make people sad. They'll make people expect the worst outcomes. They're destructive presences. They're not quite as destructive as Saturn is. Saturn is also aspecting the moon right now. So again, one of the things we're going to see is people getting a little bit depressed or a little bit down. So I would wait before I made any decisions until probably later on tonight, as opposed to especially rapid decisions later until later on tonight. And I would also try to avoid violence. People are still lying to you, folks. Okay, and I say that with the greatest respect for the political community and for the business community, but people are still lying to you about a lot of things. Okay, so that Mars Mercury aspect is very strong. It's a combination where people are trying to outsmart themselves. So anything you hear, any promises that are made to you, especially in the world of politics or in the world of business, take with a grain of salt, at least for another 3 to 4 months, because this is a deceptive placement. Mars aspecting Mercury is always deceptive. I mean, I can't put it any more clearly than that. It's clever, it's not intentionally evil, but you're only getting half truths. Okay, so anything we're seeing in footage right now, this doesn't have to do with the police beating, by the way. So that is true. But anything else you're seeing right now is really not accurate. Keep your critical thinking channels open. We're engaged, especially in the United States, but around the world, we're engaged in a large ideological war right now. And it'll set the pattern for the next 20 years or so. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be horrible, but you'll see a lot of a lot of movement back and forth between ideological positions. Both sides, both the left and the right, will tend towards authoritarian rule. Okay, that's just the nature of it. So essentially, if you're not my friend and you don't agree with me totally, you're my enemy. And it's particularly difficult for a person who likes to see both sides of the picture to live in a time like this. because they'll find themselves being disliked by both sides. But that's the consequences of being honest. Okay. And so, again, if you have that kind of temperament, hang in there. Nobody's 100% evil except for certain historical figures who I won't name. And nobody's 100% good. Okay. We're human beings. We're flawed. Certainly, I think there are evil people in history, unquestionably. I've looked at the charts of so many historical figures. There are unquestionably people who could have gone the right way, chose not to go the right way. Okay, so that's there's always choice. We always have free will. Okay, so essentially, but essentially, what we have in this chart is this Gulika and Mandi, especially in the United States chart, is going to put things in a rather combative mood. As you'll notice, the press has been combative with not only the former president but the current president. Not as combative with the current president as the former president. And it does seem like there are some people agitating for change in government. Over here. Oh, those are my cats. So I think that we're going to see that that's not going to go away anytime soon. That's going to stay with us for a while. Governmental structures in particular are going to be, and this isn't just due to Pluto, there are Vedic, traditional Vedic combinations which indicate that as well. And the comet will signal changes in government over the next few months. But I think one of the things is that we need to just stay calm, breathe deeply. Inflationary pressure will continue over the next year and a half. And I think also we're due for a recession over the next few months. Now, again, it's always dangerous when an astrologer says something like that because economies have a way of working on their own. But we had an induced crash because of COVID. We had an induced crash in the world economy. Normally, after that happens, you're going to see a boom because there's pent-up demand. I mean, this is simple economics. The boom is being tempered by high interest rates now. So it's really tough for me to see how that can result in some kind of slowing of economic activity. And astrologically, that backs it up as well because Saturn's in Aquarius. And I think one of the things is we can have, it could be a soft landing like President Clinton and I can't remember his name, Alan Greenspan engineered, but I don't think it will be. I think this is closer to the 1960s, the late 1960s, early into the 1970s, and then we have, but sort of like a compressed time frame of like 1969 to 1974. And one of the things that people forget about 1969, I don't, because I actually saw, like a really low unemployment rate in 1968, and then a recession in 1969. Is it was a mild recession in 1969 to 1970. So there were actually cutbacks. People were being laid off. It didn't last long, but it was a recession nonetheless. So I'm thinking this will be a mild recession, but it will be a recession. And people will be, now, is it going to be extreme? I don't know. I haven't looked that closely at it. It may be. It depends on how people react to it. Okay. So let's go to the individual charts and now look at the world. But the individual charts for this week, we have Aries has Rahu and the Moon in it. So Aries will be a little bit more agitated or a little bit more difficult to deal with, at least temporarily this week. And it'll be angry. It'll say things quickly, and and it'll be a little bit anxious as well. Okay, so it'll act kind of rationally. A lot of concern about money. The yogi point is in Taurus. This is a point where it's a good opportunity to make money. So whenever you have, so this can make money off real estate, off of action, quick action. Gulika is in the third house for this sign, so that's actually good um, for conquering enemies. But Mondi's in the fourth, and that means some problems at home. K2's in the seventh, so relationship partners will seem to be difficult or uncaring. Mercury's in the ninth, so that's actually a good placement for overcoming enemies or for enemies actually helping you out in terms of achieving your goals, learning new things. Sun is in the 10th. It does mean a change or a shakeup in administration or rulership and some slow gains because of that. And within about one thing to keep in mind, within about 20 days, Venus will be in Pisces exalted. It'll be a great time for a lot of people in terms of taking new chances and trying new things out. So let's go with, but again, it's still in a heavy expenditure pattern for this sign. For Taurus, Taurus has Mars in the first house, so Taurus is going to be mad at everybody, mad at how much he's spending on his siblings or upset about his siblings. And the sun, it rules the fourth house in this chart. The sun's in the ninth house, so it should actually give good gains to family life. K2's in the sixth house, so the sign has to watch out for illness and for sickness, but it'll also overcome enemies easily. Mercury's in the eighth house, good time for research, good time for rituals or spiritual activity. Venus and Saturn are in the 10th house. This creates a kind of a great combination for this chart. So career-wise, it'll see a lot of growth in big booms. And Jupiter's in the 11th house, so good gains. But again, Rahu and Moon are in the 10th house. Some worry about whether or not they're going to achieve gains, and Mars is in the 12th. So some losses through friends or some expenses through friends. Our friends will be overseas. For Gemini, Gemini has Mercury in the 7th house, so it's going to be very focused on relationship life and how it's dealing with relationship partners. Jupiter's in the 10th house. Career life will expand a lot this month, but this sign will also be a little bit worried about whether or not it will be able to function well in the long run in terms of holding on to money. It'll worry a little bit about its relationship life. Mondi's in the third house. Mondi's in the second house, so that's also kind of a clue that money issues are a concern. But also over here, the Lord of the fourth is in the seventh. Relationship life will be very good overall. Although relationship partners will seem a little bit mean or a little bit difficult to deal with, a little bit demanding. For Venus and Saturn in the ninth house, again, as for Taurus, but not as strong, a good combination for luck. So Taurus and Gemini and Libra and Virgo should really, Libra, Taurus, Gemini, and Libra, and to a lesser extent, Virgo should really put their energies into new ventures, new combinations, new gains. Luck is with them this week. And so, and the same is true with Aquarius and Capricorn. For Career life, Gemini, as I said before, will do very well, and they'll get a lot of famous friends. But again, relationship life will be a little bit challenging. For Cancer, Cancer has uh, a lot of anxiety over the past couple of days, and a lot of there's a strong desire to control things on Cancer's part right now. Okay, so it's really so that there are some disappointments, some last minute changes to the person's life, but basically this applies to Sun, Moon, rising sign of Cancer, and again, this is sidereal zodiac, so it moves back 23 degrees, 23 to 24 degrees. But Cancers will have kind of a difficult life with relationships. Relationship partners seem to be a little bit difficult or a little bit unwieldy. Mercury's in the sixth, good time for learning. Venus and Mercury are hemming in the seventh house, so there'll be protection. So there'll be slowdowns or delays in partnerships, but you will achieve your goals and you will achieve a lot of additional learning and a lot of additional recognition from this chart. For Mars in the 11th, new gains and gains from travel. For Leo, Leo has Venus and Saturn in the seventh house, so they'll be attracted to older or more responsible partners, maybe partners who have a little bit of money. K2's in the third house, a lot of courage for the sign. Mercury's in the fifth house, a lot of personal growth, and a lot of luck with children. Sun's in the sixth house. So again, this sign will have to watch out for illnesses or health issues. Jupiter's in the eighth, a lot of hidden messages, a lot of hidden studies. Rahu and Moon are in the ninth house, so bosses will be difficult to deal with, and Mars in the 10th house, career life will start to take off strongly. For Virgo, Virgo has K2 in the second house, so there's still some concern about money, but with effort, you can bring a lot more money in because of this Venus-Saturn combination. Also, you'll get money from afar because of Sun being in the fifth house. Mercury's in the fourth house. This sign will have a positive experience with learning. It will have a lot of relationship opportunities. It will also have a lot of business opportunities. Rahu and Moon is a little bit of an obsession with checking out things behind the scenes. And Mars is in the ninth, so good gains or good investment in property. For Libra, Libra's had kind of a tough couple of years. Venus and Saturn are in the fifth house, so this month should actually be good for it. And you'll see some improvement in the sign when Venus goes to the next couple of signs as well. But basically, this chart, so Venus may meet relationship partners or have good relationship luck over the next couple of months. And Mercury's in, but again, a lot of confusion about what it wants. Mercury's in the third house, a lot of intelligence and communication. Sun is in the fourth house, a lot of financial gains for this sign. Venus and Saturn in the fifth, a lot of luck in terms of study with slow learning. Jupiter's in the sixth, some help from enemies. Rahu and Moon, some worry or anxiety about relationship life. And Mars is in the eighth, so relationship partners will take advantage of you. So watch out for that. Scorpio has Mercury in the second house, so good communication skills. I'm going to rush through these last few signs pretty quickly because I'm running out of time. Sun is in the third house. That's actually a good sign. This is considered to be a Boudica planet for Scorpio rising. I've never quite, Boudica is considered an evil planet. I've never quite bought that because the Sun in Scorpio charts tends to do good things from what I've seen. But it tends not to do that well with authority figures. That may be where the Boudica comes from. But basically, this will give this sign a lot of ability to upset or shake up things. But it will also hurt the reputation of this sign, to be honest. And Venus and Saturn, so watch out for the company you keep from this particular combination. Venus and Saturn are in the fourth house, Jupiter's in the fifth house. So again, a lucky placement for Scorpio rising. Rahu and Moon are in the sixth house. There are some temporary worries connected uh, with relationships uh, and also with superiors and work life. Mars is in the seventh house. A lot of fights with wife or relationship partner or husband. Um, and career-wise, it looks okay. Scorpio looks okay, but again, heavy expenditure patterns. Sagittarius, Mercury's in the first house. The Sun is in the second house. Venus and Saturn in the third house. Great combinations for this sign actually moving forward financially, moving forward. And there'll be some disruption in finances over the next few months, but basically, I think this planet will start to do much better than it has over the past couple of years. Jupiter's in the fourth house. That's a Hamsa Yoga, so good status, good gain of status. Rahu and Moon are in the fifth house, so again, there's some anxiety about politics, about luck, about children. Mars is in the sixth house. It's kind of a bellicose state for this planet. So there'll be a lot of arguments, a lot of short arguments. And K2 in the 11th, again, don't trust your friends. It's not, this isn't going to go away until November. For Capricorn, Capricorn has Sun in the first house as the Lord of the eighth and the first. So the Sun will be interested in investments or long-term prospects. Venus and Saturn are in the second house. This is good for financial growth, but very slow. So be conservative. Jupiter's in the third house. Jupiter in the third is very good for negotiations. Rahu and Moon are in the fourth house. That's not so good for family life. And there'll be some anxiety in terms of relationship life. Mars is in the fifth house. Children will be active, energetic, but a little bit disobedient. And K2's in the 10th, so career recognition, again, will elude you, but not as badly as last year. For Aquarius, Venus and Saturn form a Raj Yoga or a great combination in the first house. Jupiter's in the second house, should be good for money for the sign. Rahu and Moon, it will express itself a little bit inelegantly, so be careful how you express yourself so people don't act nasty or bellicose or difficult to satisfy. Mars is in the fourth house. Home life is a little volatile, so just be aware of that. Moon's going to pass over that sign before the end of the day. And K2's in the ninth house. So this will give unexpected luck or unexpected breaks. Not necessarily money producing at first, but they'll actually open new doors and new opportunities for you. Mercury's in the 11th house, good for financial gains. Sun's in the 12th house, so relationship partners may seem a little distant or a little bit detached. Now for Pisces, finally, we have Pisces has Jupiter in the first house, so it's feeling pretty good about itself, but it's a little bit concerned about money, and it's a little bit aggressive in the way it approaches people, which is unusual for Pisces, but they're nonetheless. Now, when you keep in mind that Vedic Pisces is actually Western Aries, Pisces can be a little bit self-righteous at times, so just keep that in mind. I have nothing against Pisces, Vedic Pisces, but it's really not. It's not as nice as it first appears. Mars is in the third, so a lot of courage. Mercury's in the 10th, so a lot of emphasis on career life. Sun, so almost all the energy of the sign is going to be connected with career and financial gains and expenses over the next week. Now let's look at the overall chart for where we expect to see events happening. So I'm going to creep you out and get a little closer to this sign. And we have Mercury passing over Hawaii, so Mercury should calm down a little bit. We have a Rahu line passing over Alaska, so there may be some political scandal or some political upheaval in Alaska, and also affecting the West Coast. We have this rather interesting, looks like a sun line happening over the West Coast. So I think you're going to see a lot of disruption in California, governmentally in California, and also up through Montana and Wyoming. And also there's a Saturn line going up here through here. So that indicates a lot of hardship for those particular states. Um, and there's a nice little Venus line going up through uh, Arizona and the Midwest. But Venus is also connected with the rain, like the moon is. So uh, we we'll probably have some bad winter conditions because of the Venus-Saturn combination in this general part of the country and even in Mexico, even in Northwest Mexico. Um, the next important line we see over here is this line coming down here, which is a Jupiter line. And so you should see some political shenanigans happening and some court decisions. So this is close to Georgia, where the Trump trial is being held right now. The grand jury or the jury has come out with its findings. It'll figure out whether or not to recommend a jury trial. And so that'll be interesting to see. I'm not going to say either way whether it's going to result in an actual trial or not. My suspicion is that, I don't know, there's a Jupiter-Mercury combination here. My suspicion is that it probably won't, but I've been wrong about these things before, so I'll take that with a grain of salt. Mercury over here, because there's going to be some, there's definitely a lot of lying going on in Washington. I hate to say that. And also in Canada, also parts of Canada, we have a Mercury line going right through here. And also in Cuba, and also in, God, in Peru, and all down the west coast of South America. South America is not really a mess, but it really seems to be in a lot of trouble. There's a Rahu line going over Maine and New England. That could have something to do with energy prices. But there's a Rahu moon and sun line happening in Brazil. That doesn't look good for the stability of Brazil. I'm worried about a possible military coup or something like that in Brazil because of these combinations. There's a Saturn Mars line happening over the Azores, so you might have some tough weather conditions out there. Jupiter line running through France mostly, and Norway, and Spain close to England. England's between a Mercury and a Jupiter and a, what line is that? I'm sorry, excuse me, and a Saturn line. So I don't know if there's going to be another change in government in England, but there's certainly going to be a lot of disruption in England over the next couple of months, a lot of disruption in Europe, especially as we get to Germany, and a lot of panic in Eastern Europe, and even in Turkey over the next couple of months. This could be connected with governmental issues, and also somewhat connected with war, conflicts, maybe spillover from the Ukraine conflict, although I don't think that's going to happen. But there's a lot of anxiety in this part of the world overall, all the way down through Egypt and down through Sudan and down through Mozambique uh, and uh, and Madagascar. It's just really, and Iran, Saudi Arabia. Um, so these, again, governmental issues are not really at stake here. It's more domestic unrest if it's Rahu, but there will definitely be dissatisfaction with governments, and you might see a few attempted overthrows in those countries. But again, I realize I'm throwing a lot of countries at you so that they can't all be affected that way. Let's go to Mars. Mars is hitting over Pakistan and Afghanistan, and certainly a potential for violence there, even potential for violence in the middle of Russia. And let's see now. This might creep over into India, but India looks relatively unscathed. There's a descending line going through Jupiter, a descending Jupiter line going through Southeast Asia, close to Cambodia and Myanmar, and also the Philippines. So I think you're going to see some protests even in those countries. China is still having some issues um, with shutdowns, but a lot of this Jupiter line actually looks fairly good. It looks like they'll be stabilizing just a little bit, but there's still some anxiety. Jupiter's hemmed in by malefics to a very large extent in this chart. And I think so. Venus is a benefic, so it's doing part of the hemming in, but Saturn's just before it, and Rahu's on the other side of it. It really doesn't count in that particular yoga, but it's really not good either. And let's see now, Jupiter's going through China. So again, panic, like I said, just general panic. Jupiter is going through Vietnam. So you'll probably see Vietnam starts to recover a little bit. China starts to recover a little bit, and over the next few months. And Japan has a Rahu line running through it, and Korea does as well. So those countries are probably going to be a little bit discombobulated. And like I said, Australia has really been kind of not torn apart. That's a little bit too melodramatic for me, but kind of divided in terms of how it's dealing with energy prices and how it's dealing with upsets to the area. So I think overall, whenever I see combinations like this, I get a little bit concerned that Australia is getting a little bit destabilized. It's not really a massive destabilization. And also, one more thing I mentioned, political upheavals in China. We're not hearing the whole truth. Again, this may be obvious to everybody, but we're not hearing the whole truth from China or from Southeast Asia about how those economies are being affected. But that's not really a surprise, is it? And let's see now. I'm looking at this line right here. There's a Mercury line going over New Zealand, and we're not. So New Zealand's actually engaging in a little bit of misleading information too. So maybe there's something the prime minister is facing, and the cause for her to say she doesn't want to run again. So this will be interesting to look at over the next few months. I am looking for, so the Mercury lines are going to be really strongly affected by the comet. So expect shocking news or surprising news, maybe changes of governments wherever Mercury lines are. So over here, we've already gotten that from New Zealand, but also here in Vietnam and through China, here throughout France and touching on Norway and the United Kingdom and even Spain, and here in the United States and down through Cuba and Peru and Chile and Argentina probably. But the country I'm sort of most concerned about is this negative pattern over Brazil. All right, so that's it for me for this week. Thanks again for watching. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really do appreciate it. And you have a great week. Okay? Thanks, folks. I love you all. Bye-bye now.